Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us. How's your deer season going yet? How many times have you heard this question? Did you get your buck? Did you get your deer? If I had $1 for every time somebody'd ask me that, I bet I'd have $100. And the answer is no, thank you. No. I haven't even had a shot at a deer that I would be interested in taking here in Michigan. This goes for the archery season as well as the gun season. And I've been hunting a fair amount, too. But I have not had a shot at a deer that I want to take. Now, my goal for this season here in Michigan was to shoot a big, mature Michigan doe. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not trying to shoot a big buck. I'm not trying to shoot a mature buck. I'm not trying to shoot a trophy buck. I just want to shoot a big doe. The only big doe I've had a chance to shoot was last Friday from my tree stand with my 350 Legend in my hands, and she was across the fence. She was across the property line. I could have shot a couple of spikes. I've had a lot of fawns around me, but I honestly, I haven't had a shot at a big old doe. Now, early in the season, because we have some lease property and we put food plots out there, early in the season, we were seeing quite a few deer during daylight hours. The cameras were showing us that. I never had one in front of me while I was hunting. You know, it was when I was here, they were over there, and vice versa type thing. You know how that goes. But now the activity is just absolutely dried up. Now, a couple of reasons for this, right? It is the second week of firearm season now, and they know they're being hunted, and they're going to go nocturnal, and they have. The other big reason, I suspect, is that, I'll be generous here, some of the people around us, I suspect, are using bait. And so that's drawing the deer from our property over to their properties. I don't know what to think of this whole bait ban in the Lower Peninsula here in Michigan. I understand why it's in place. Concern over the spread of CWD, chronic wasting disease, and the thought that nose-to-nose contact can spread CWD. Nose-to-nose contact under an apple tree can spread CWD. Nose-to-nose contact in a food plot can spread CWD. And I'm no biologist, and I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be an expert. So let me tell you my anecdotal observations and my thoughts on that. It appears very clear to me that baiting cannot be stopped in the Lower Peninsula with the resources that the DNR has. There simply are not enough officers. There are simply not enough wardens in the field to go out and start enforcing or not trying to get all of the people who are baiting. I was corrected on this term earlier. I said it appears clear to me you can't enforce the bait law. And I had a couple of law enforcement officers say, well, you're using the wrong term, Avery. The bait laws are being enforced, but they're not being enforced to the level of stopping baiting. And I get that. That makes complete sense what you're saying there. I question having a law on the books that cannot be enforced to the level of trying to reach the desire, and that is to keep people from baiting. In our case, I know Well, okay. I have no problem with using bait. I've killed deer over bait. I've killed deer without bait. I find it infinitely more enjoyable hunting without bait, but in some situations, I think it's necessary to see deer. And I think I'm in that situation right now. So even though I'm not convinced that baiting is a negative impact on our Michigan deer herd, and I'm convinced that if I was to use bait, I would be able to kill my big doe, I'm not going to do it because I can't afford to. Not financially, but professionally. I cannot afford to be sitting over bait and have a conservation officer walk up and write me a ticket. And I'm not going to do it. I will not. But boy, I wish we could. I really wish we could. They say, well, we want you to harvest more does. Let me hunt over bait. I'll take 2 or 3 does for you this season yet. My son James, opening morning, shot a monster doe on our lease property. 120 pounds dressed out. That's a big deer. When we're looking at that thing, I'm thinking, man, I'm glad he's a young guy here to drag that thing out, because that's bigger than a lot of people's bucks that they ever shoot. 120 pounds dressed. In fact, he entered it in the local buck poll. I think it's still the biggest doe shot so far. But we were out there opening morning. I digress here. We did get a chance to get out there as a family opening morning, and it was wonderful. My son James, granddaughter Addison. James, the only one who saw a deer, that doe, and he shot her. No, actually I did. I saw 2 does and a fawn, but I couldn't get a shot at them because they were there and gone. But it was nice to be out there. I have been hunting from the ground. My beloved Wraith 270 see-through ground blinds from Primal. Also tree stands. I still can't quite get used to the concept of being up in a tree with a gun in my hands and doing it legally, because for so many years, here's a good example. For so many years, it was illegal to sit in a tree stand with a rifle and hunt deer in Michigan. And then suddenly, with some legislative action or somebody signed something, it was suddenly legal. So we took something that was illegal and made it legal. Boom, one fell swoop. I feel like we could do the same thing with baiting. It's illegal, it's illegal. Well, all you got to do is say it's not illegal, and it's not. Anyway, I heard a story about opening day, a hunter in northern Michigan who fell out of a tree stand. 60-year-old guy, 61-year-old guy, fell out of a tree stand. What a shame. What a shame. I'm of the mindset that every tree stand fall could be prevented. I mean, even catastrophic things where your tree stand falls out from underneath you. If you would just wear a full body harness and have a lifeline attached to the tree above your stand, so you hook into that thing when you leave the ground, you're attached to that line all the way up the entire time that you're hunting and all the way back down. Seems pretty simple to me. AR-style rifles. I've been out there this season with my Brenton 350 Legend. Brenton USA. Michigan-made gun, Michigan company. But it's an AR-style rifle. And I got looking at the guns that we had out there opening morning. I had an AR, my son James had an AR, my granddaughter had an AR, and I took a picture of all 3 of those guns leaned up next to a tree. And I put a post on my Facebook page. I said, look, I love old guns. I love the craftsmanship of old guns. I love the tradition of the old guns. I love the stories. I love the history. And if I had an old gun that had been passed down to me in my family, I would likely use it. But I don't. So instead, I'm using one of the new modern tools. And I was surprised at the comments that came from fellow hunters about how dare you take that evil weapon into the whitetail woods. And it really bothered me. My Brenton 350 Legend is a semi-automatic rifle with a limited number of rounds in the magazine. If I was to use a bolt-action rifle or my dad's old 30-06 Remington semi-auto, same thing. It's a semi-auto gun with a limited number of rounds in the magazine. How is it any different? But people are so weirded out about, the tools we use for hunting these days. Wednesday Night Live coming up December 6th. We're going to be at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. Call for reservations 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. We'll be giving away some good prizes. We will be joined by some good friends. I am not buying your dinner that day. You got to buy your own dinner, but there is no cost to come to the event. We do need reservations, though, to know how many people will be there. 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. Don't forget about the hashtag Forward Fuels Tradition as you post pictures of your young hunter in the woods this fall. Once a month, we're going to draw a winner for that. And you'll get a gift card to the Forward convenience stores. So if you got a kid who's out there hunting or fishing this fall, post their picture, use the hashtag Forward Fuels Tradition. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, Gabe VanWormer joins me. You know Gabe. You know him from Michigan Outdoors TV. You know him from Fishing 411 TV. He's an avid outdoorsman, expert hunter. We'll talk about hunting the late season. We'll talk about the use of ARs in the whitetail woods. In the second hour, Joe Marion on cold water safety, how to stay safe on the ice, how to stay safe while you're hunting and fishing around cold water. Nick Green from MUCC checks in, speaking of cold water, from the duck blind. This week's Ask Avery question, can you hunt from your house? And in our third hour, we're talking trapping with Joe Velsenky of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. And, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar as well. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry for 3/4 of a century. Think about that. The company has been around since Roland Boning invented Ferrultite, which was a product to glue broadheads to wooden and aluminum arrow shafts. These days, Boning continues to innovate, come up with new products, new manufacturing processes for target archers and bow hunters alike. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. I was telling you before the break that it seems ridiculous that here in Michigan, and I've been hunting with a bow, crossbow, and my Brenton 350 Legend, and I haven't been able to even shoot a doe yet. I mean, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? And then I look online at people like, let's say Gabe VanWormer. he's filled his freezer, his neighbor's freezer, everybody at church. His kids are out whacking does and bucks. So I thought, you know what? I need to get Gabe on the Outdoor Magazine phone line and talk to him and learn from him. Oh, by the way, you know Gabe from Michigan Outdoors TV. He also works very closely with the Romanaks on their Fishing 411 show. And you can find him on YouTube, Full Quiver Outdoors, and on Instagram as Gabe VanWormer as well. All right, with all that out of the way, let's welcome Gabe VanWormer to the show. Gabe, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Mike. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great because I'm out there having fun. It's for some reason I'm struggling this season, but I'm out there having fun. And I guess that's all that really matters, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no better time to be in the woods than in here in Michigan. That's for sure.
Well, and the best time to be in the woods or on the water is whenever you can get out there.
That's right. Yeah. Quit looking at the weather. Just get out and hunt.
Exactly. Well, Gabe, you have been blessed to make a living in the outdoors. It's something a lot of people dream of. You and I have been able to do it. Remind us, how did you get to this point?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I actually met Jimmy Gretzinger, who owns Michigan Outdoors now. I met him at a buck pull in 1999 in Morris, Michigan. And I basically said, I want to do this. And I'll be a non-paid intern, whatever you need. I'll carry your gear. And so I I literally started shadowing them around and ended up getting hired by the end of '99, early 2000, and they couldn't get rid of me. So just persistence. I didn't have a background in this. I was had a secondary education or I was minoring in still photography. So, and back then we had to actually focus our cameras and stuff. You remember that?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
So carrying around one of them big beta cams that weighed about 35 pounds, and my right arm's longer than my left now, and those were the old days. But it's come a long ways from there, that's for sure.
And so these days you're still working with Michigan Out of Doors. You're working with the Romanaks over at Fishing 4011, doing a lot of fishing over there. So what, of all the different activities, of all the different adventures you get to be involved in, what's your favorite, Gabe?
My favorite is still bow hunting. I just absolutely love the challenge and just getting a deer close. And these days, I think for the last 12 or 13 years, I've been hunting with a longbow. But that doesn't really mean that I love to go out with my handguns and with my Brenton and other gear as well. It doesn't really mean that's my favorite. That's just my favorite thing to do for sure.
Well, and there is, for several years I hunted with a recurve, and it is so rewarding. It is so beautiful and basic and simple and clean and pure and everything. It's just, but I got to the point, Gabe, where I wasn't shooting enough to be confident with that thing. So I knew it was time to move on to something else. But I have so much respect for you traditional archers.
There's a lot of guys that say the same thing. And, guys come up to me all the time, I'd like to do this and everything. And I have to tell them and be honest with them and say, if you don't have the time to do it, it's really probably not for you.
Yeah.
It really does take a lot of time. And I don't, make any bones about it. It's going to be tough. You're going to have a lot of setbacks, and you're going to miss deer. You're going to have opportunities at big bucks that you just can't shoot because they're out there at 30 yards, 35 yards, and you're only comfortable to 15 or 20. So, it isn't for everybody. And, you as well as I, we have a lot of time to be able to hunt. We're able to get out there because it's our job. And, I'm very fortunate to be blessed with this job. And, I'm able to hunt, about every day. So that really helps me out a lot. And if I was a weekend warrior like most people are, I don't know if I'd be doing it either. But I sure am happy I have that opportunity for sure.
And I'm happy that you are so good at documenting and capturing these adventures on video. The way you put things together, the way you share your experiences is really cool, Gabe.
I really enjoy that. It's a lot of fun to be able to not only take the deer with a recurve or a longbow, but also to be able to share it with others and then hear people go, you inspired me to be able to do it myself and everything. And I just love that, and not only that, to be able to show your buddies, hey, I passed up this buck the other day, or I saw this happen in the woods. And it's just a riot to take a camera into the woods. And sometimes it gets a little frustrating. There's times I remember a couple of years ago, I had about maybe 130-inch buck come in Michigan, rattled him in. And by the time he got to about, I thought he was at 20 yards, and I looked over the camera and realized he was at about 10. And I didn't even realize it. I was trying to get good footage, and it really screwed me up, and away he went. And sometimes it works out like that, but it is a lot of fun to do, that's for sure.
Yeah, technology and recording these adventures does get in the way sometimes. But from a strictly geek perspective, the tools we have these days are so much better. They're so much smaller than the old days, like you were talking about with the beta cam. I mean, anybody can take their iPhone into the woods and not shoot professional grade stuff, but they can, they can document their adventure to show other people. It's more, I don't know. I just think it's exciting.
It is, and the amount of equipment, the money you need for equipment nowadays is next to nothing. I mean, it is like you're saying. You can take a phone out there and videotape your son or daughter shooting something, and it'll come out pretty darn good. Where before we had tens of thousands of dollars wrapped up into one camera, and now, $1,000 get you a pretty nice one. So yeah, it is. It's gotten a lot better. Everything has come around so much, and it's gotten a lot cheaper to do things nowadays from that perspective, that's for sure.
And the quality, too. I look at the quality of video that comes off these phones versus the stuff I used to put on TV, broadcast years ago, and it looks like we drew it with a crayon compared to what we're shooting these days.
I just ran across a bunch of my old mini DV tapes, and I've been looking at them lately, and it's just, there's sometimes you can't even tell who it is. You're going, man, did I not focus or something? But that's just the way it was in standard def, that's for sure. Yeah, crazy.
So you guys have, as I said, you've had a great deer season so far. We're coming in now to the second week of the firearm season. Things have changed, right? The deer have changed. They know they're being hunted. How do we as hunters then take it? I don't want to say take advantage of that. How do we address that to try to be as effective as possible, Gabe?
Man, if I had an answer to that. The second week of gun season in Michigan is just tough. Man, it's tough. From my perspective, we kind of lay back a little bit and let our spots kind of relax for a little bit, let the deer come back in. We try to hunt them a lot less. I've been out of state bow hunting for the last week, so I just got back a couple days ago, but I haven't even been out gun hunting yet. So, that, I hate to say that, but sometimes that's the best thing for them is to let them come back and start doing their deer things and hitting the food plots or hitting the fields or whatever you got for food, because they're going to start hitting the food here shortly, and praying for inclement weather. I mean, we get some snow or something that's really going to push those deer onto the food, and once they get on the food, then they're pretty ripe for the pickings. That's for sure.
Boy, that's actually great advice, Gabe. And I'm thinking about our situation. We are fortunate to have some leased property. We did put in some food plots. If we could just force ourselves to maybe stay out of there for a little while now, let the pressure of the surrounding properties push people and push the deer into our area, that's a good idea. It's hard to stay out of the woods, but that's a good idea.
It's very hard. Very hard. Yeah, I hate doing it. But there is state land around. I mean, we could go out and, bebop through state land and maybe fill a doe tag or something here and there. But, right now I don't normally wait for good weather or good opportunities. I kind of hunt when I can hunt, like we were talking about earlier. But this is the time of year I think it does pertain to that you kind of wait for that good opportunity, wait for that cold weather or snow to come in, and if you can. But people that have the day off, you got to be hunting, that's for sure. And so I don't fault anybody for hunting hard this time of year. That it is what it is. But you are definitely going to see a lot less deer, it seems like, in the second week of deer season. But coming into that late, that muzzleloader season and late doe, that's when weather plays a big part, and food. So you'll start seeing them get back on food.
You talk about state land here in Michigan. I have a lot of people send me pictures because I love to post them on my Facebook page. And some of the bucks I'm seeing coming out of northern Michigan on state land, holy cow, what an accomplishment that is to take a really nice buck on public land.
Oh, it's not. That's the biggest challenge in the world, I think. In hunting here in Michigan is, big bucks on state land. And you go up into those Northwest 12 units that have antler point restrictions, and you see them rewriting their record books these days. I mean, I've seen a couple state land bucks come out this year that are just, man, anybody in Jackson County or, Hillsdale or all those good counties down south, they would love to shoot bucks like that. And they're shooting them up. And, I saw one come out of Kalkaska County the other day that was 160s, 170s. And you never saw that before. But, these antler point restrictions are changing things in counties that you wouldn't expect. Mason, Lake, Kalkaska, areas that just don't have a whole lot of farm country. They did not have, if you looked at the CBM records before the APRs came in, they didn't have a whole lot of entries, and now they're really rewriting them. But it's been amazing.
Oh, it works. If you can get people behind it, it works for sure. Hang tight, Gabe. We're talking with Gabe VanWormer. Gabe. He's a name and a face that's been around the outdoor industry here in Michigan for a long time. Check out his YouTube channel, Full Quiver Outdoors on YouTube, Full Quiver Outdoors. If you are on Instagram, I would encourage you to follow Gabe there, and he is Gabe VanWormer on Instagram. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to talk with Gabe more about hunting the late season, about the concept of hunting with an AR-style rifle, because I know Gabe has done it. He uses a Brenton, Michigan-made Brenton, just like I do. That and lots more coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WBCK in Battle Creek. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Matt Smith Outdoors Realtor. Matt is a good friend of mine, good guy, I've known him forever. He's an expert at finding recreational properties, vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into reality. I had Matt on the show here a few weeks ago, and I find his approach very interesting. He says, look, people go through different stages in their life. And I'm not talking about financial stages, although that, of course, is a factor. But he said, when you're young, you're looking for certain things for your family, middle age, and you get older, things change. Well, Matt can help you find that vacation home up north, that cottage, or even your primary residence. I would encourage you to check him out on Facebook and Instagram. He's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And, if you're looking for property or your primary home, get in touch with Matt. He's a good guy. Another good guy, Gabe VanWormer, who's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. You can follow him on his YouTube channel, Full Quiver Outdoors, or on Instagram as Gabe VanWormer. Gabe, I made a post here a few days ago talking about how I love the old-style guns, the history and tradition, the craftsmanship. Although I find myself in the woods these days with a Michigan-made AR-style Brenton 350 Legend. And I was surprised at the negative comments I got from that. I want to get your thoughts on this. I think you're out there with an AR-style. In fact, a Brenton too, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I've got the 350 Legend. It's chambered in 350 Legend, but I really don't understand the negative stuff around it because all it is a semi-automatic rifle. I mean, that's all it is, and it's shooting the same thing my bolt-action 350 is shooting. So I really don't see the negativity about it. They're just great guns for adults, for kids. My kids are very young. I've got a couple of young daughters, and then I've got an older son, and they all use them. They don't kick hardly at all. I mean, they're just easy handling. They're just really good. A really good option for youth hunters for sure, and for adults. I mean, they shoot great. So I don't understand the negativity about it. I'm in the same boat as you are.
Well, and I had comments. Well, they just look scary, and come on, really? We don't have enough things in this world to worry about without a hunting tool the way it looks. Let's worry about the way it performs and the safety of it and everything else. Come on.
Exactly. I can't understand that. I've got some pretty scary looking bolt guns, I think.
Well, listen, I've seen your posts. You are certainly a gun guy, but what I respect is you are. I feel like you're a tinkerer, a researcher. You're experimenting with different loads, different calibers, different guns. I feel like that's something you have a real interest in.
Yeah, I love doing that stuff. I mean, and it doesn't matter what kind of gun it is. I love my handguns. But recently the one that I've been messing around with is that Brenton. I've in the past I haven't cared for carrying around an AR style rifle just because of the way it felt in my hand, not the gun itself. It just it has Picatinny rails on the front and stuff, and they dig into your hands. They're cold. Just various things about it. And then, somebody introduced me to the Brenton, and I was like, wow, this thing is completely a hunting style gun. It is not, it's just completely a different gun all around. And I found myself really enjoying that. So, coming to crop damage permits and stuff like that early on, helping some of the farmers, I found myself taking that out more than I did some of my other stuff. So it's been kind of neat. And then, we've lent that gun out to a couple of youth hunters lately. And opening day, we had a youth hunter take two nice bucks, and then the next, a couple days later, another youth hunter took another buck with it. And I mean, it's just a great gun that you can just hand to just about anybody, and they can shoot it accurately. So, I think it's a great option, these AR style rifles for anybody really.
And the fact with Brenton that they're made here in Michigan, just I think I love to work with Michigan-based companies. And when you find a company that makes a gun like this, it's perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. I mean, throughout my career, I've loved to, my longbow's made by a Michigan-made company, my quiver, everything about that, a lot of my handguns are customized by Magnaport down in Mount Clemens, Michigan. And then to go with something that's made right here in Lansing, Michigan was really cool. Being able to, go up there to the factory and take a look at them and everything. It was really cool.
And I think you're also working with another, is it Bear Creek? What's the ammo company you've been doing some testing for?
Bear Creek Ballistics. Yep. They're just south of Battle Creek. And those guys down there, they make a lot of custom rifles, and their custom ammo line is one of the premier ammo lines out there, especially for straight wall cartridges. So I prefer, that's one thing to talk about, is I prefer an all copper bullet that expands well at short and long ranges. And in, say, a 350 Legend or a 450 Bushmaster that are real popular these days, you're looking for something that's high quality, so that when you're shooting that deer at, a deer walks out at 20 yards, you're still going to get the same expansion that you will at 200 yards. And we found that those all copper bullets do well, and Bear Creek loads all those. So, and they've got high performance lines too that are high velocity, a little flatter shooting, which is really cool.
Hang tight, Gabe. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. I want to wrap up this hour with Gabe VanWormer. You can find him on YouTube, Full Quiver Outdoors, and on Instagram as Gabe VanWormer. He's an interesting guy, very nice guy. I mean, he's just salt of the earth, good guy. And we'll wrap up our conversation after the break. Coming up in our second hour, Joe Marion talks about cold water safety, and Nick Green of MUCC. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. They have promised to keep the docks in at the boat launch as long as Mother Nature will allow. And this year, maybe that could be a long time. The fall fishing on Saginaw Bay for walleye can be phenomenal. And Linwood Beach, a great place to take advantage of that. Also, if we get a nice fishing season, Linwood Beach, a great place to head out as well. Also, for winterizing your boat, storing your boat at a marine repair, just great people. The website, linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. Wrapping up this hour with Gabe VanWormer. Gabe, you've spent a little time fishing out of Linwood Beach, I know.
No, absolutely. Quite a bit. You got me thinking about getting the boat out now. Well,
that's what I was just going to ask you. Have you? I know you've been hunting hard. You were out of state. By the way, where were you? What state were you in?
I was hunting Kansas.
Oh.
Did not have luck. I saw a lot of big bucks, but just didn't have one close enough. So, yeah.
Some of my best deer hunting memories outside of Michigan are from Kansas.
Yes. Yeah. It's an amazing state, that's for sure. Yep.
Yeah, big bucks. And the wind never quits blowing.
No.
Right?
Yeah, if you have a 20-mile-per-hour wind, you're like, oh, this is pretty nice.
I know. So what about some fall fishing? I know you're a big-time walleye fisherman. Have you had a chance to get out this fall at all, or do you have plans to do so now?
Yeah, actually, we just shot a show yesterday with a Roman axe down on Detroit River and caught quite a few walleye jigging. It sounds like it's slowing up a little bit with this cold front coming in, but yeah, we did pretty well. We caught some, a lot of eater fish, but it was a lot of fun, and they've been catching some big fish throughout the fall, but the water's kind of cleared up, and then all of a sudden we got that, started getting that cool down there on Monday, so it really slowed down the big fish, but the little fish are still hitting, and those taste just as good, though, or if not better.
Well, and I'm used to hearing about the Detroit River walleye fishery in the springtime, not so much in the fall until this year. I'm hearing a lot about it this year. Was it exceptionally good this year? Did people just rediscover it for some reason, or what?
Yeah, I think social media has done everything. We were fishing with Rob Jones, who's a good friend down there, and he's been doing it his whole life. He said, fall fishing has been good. forever. It's just that people now realize that. And, with hunting, you put your boat away for the hunting season, and it's hard to get it out for a weekend. And some boats you have to winterize them. We use our outboards, so we don't really need to winterize them. We just drain the water out of them. But those guys with IOs, they can't do that. So I think that's just the part of it that people didn't like, is they had to re-winterize their boat and blow the lines out and all that stuff. But now people are doing a lot more of that. Or heated garages are more common. I'm not sure, but I think social media is the biggest difference. People just know it's out there and go, hey, let's go do it.
Social media has become a huge factor in our lives these days, but even the outdoors that we love so much. I mean, some of it positive, some of it negative, but it's definitely out there. And I think, you can learn a lot from people like you, Gabe, by your YouTube channel. I think it's a great example. Yeah,
there's a lot of people out there. I've learned a lot from other YouTube channels too, the Hunting Public and people like that. I think for good and bad, I think there's been, a lot more pressure on public lands especially out west, from people that are big name YouTube channels that, we used to have these all to ourselves, and now they're not. But that's a good thing. It's a really good thing, seeing people out there enjoying the wildlife and really taking advantage of where their taxpayer money is going to these state lands.
Well, content producers these days, you don't need the Outdoor Channel. You don't need Sportsman Channel. You don't have to pay these guys thousands of dollars a week to be on. Just if your content is good, put it up on YouTube and social media, and people will find you. It's a very exciting time for a content producer.
It certainly is. You can reach a huge audience just by YouTube. Yeah, it's been really quite amazing to me that I haven't put a whole lot of effort into that. I'm not full-time on YouTube or anything like that, but the people that find you, and, it's quite amazing what kind of an audience you can have, what kind of a reach, just with something small even. So, yeah, it's been very neat to see that over the years really, really ramp up to where, most of my friends don't have the Outdoor Channel or anything like that. They just have YouTube TV or some streaming service of some sort.
Gabe, real quick before I let you go, all the cool things you've had a chance to do, all the adventures, what's on the bucket list still? What do you want to do that you haven't had a chance to do yet in the outdoors?
I would love to shoot a bull elk with my longbow. That's hunting elk with a longbow, and then next March I'm actually going on a safari to Africa. So I'm going to be going to South Africa. Never done that before, and that's kind of the next one to knock off. It'll be pretty fun, I'm sure.
Now, are you taking your longbow to South Africa?
I would love to, but no, not on this one. I probably will take a handgun, though.
Okay.
So I probably will do that.
Listen, that's going to be a wonderful trip. I wish you well there, and I wish you well in all your adventures. Appreciate you joining us, Gabe. Have a good rest of the season, and we will talk again, I promise.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Gabe VanWormer, you can find him on YouTube as Full Quiver Outdoors, and he's on Instagram as well as Gabe VanWormer. He's one of the good guys in the outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. We'll take a break. When we come back for our second hour, another one of the good guys, Joe Marion, retired Coast Guardsman, and Nick Green of MUCC, coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yep, this is a radio show, all right. It is recorded, produced, syndicated, uploaded, downloaded as a radio show. Well, but see, it's also downloaded as a podcast. I think the best way to listen to this, the content of the show, if you can, though, is on your local radio station. If you can't, for some reason, if your local AM or FM station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, it's nice to know there's a podcast version of the show available, and it's the same content. I make it available Sunday afternoons after most of our broadcast stations have aired the show. You can hear the podcast version on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google. Twitter's now called X, I think. SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, the whole gamut, all of them, right? Even on YouTube. Yeah, I put a version of it on YouTube. So, so you can, if you want to hear the content of this show, there is a place to hear it. I also do, though, I'm a big fan of podcasting. I do podcasts every month for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Primal Outdoors. When we're done in the studio today, we'll record this month's Primal podcast with a Michigan guy, Charlie Wiltsey. We'll see how his fall season is going. Regardless, though, of when you are hearing my voice, how you are hearing my voice, the fact that you do hear my voice means a lot to me. I certainly appreciate it. Been doing this a long time, and hopefully we'll continue to do it for quite a while yet, but, my plans are not God's plans. But if it's up to me, I'm going to be here for a while yet, and I could not do it without your support. If you weren't listening to this show, if I didn't have an audience of some size, I wouldn't be able to get my advertising partners even interested in working with me. So literally, you are the key to this whole thing, so thank you so very, very much. I have had a chance over all these years to meet with and work with and get to know and become friends with a lot of cool people. Joe Marion is one of them. I find Joe to be an extremely fascinating guy. Retired Coast Guardsman. He spent a lot of his time here on the Great Lakes. He was up in Alaska. I got to know him when he was at Coast Guard Station Saginaw River. And they were doing some very interesting things at the time there with cold water rescue and cold water safety. There was a time early on when I worked with the Coast Guard when they said, don't go on the ice. It's never safe. Do not go on the ice. As they were saying, don't go on the ice, they looked out the window of the station there and they could see 1,000 people on the ice of the Saginaw River. So it didn't make a lot of sense. Joe, being an avid hunter and an angler, saw this dichotomy, and he said, we got to try to do something about this. And he was able to work from the inside, get things changed, and in fact, help develop the policies and procedures that the Coast Guard later used for their cold water rescues and such. And Joe is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Joe, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I couldn't be better, Joe. I'm really glad to be in the studio this week. Glad to be talking to good friends like you.
That makes it a good time.
It beats working, that's for sure.
Yeah, you were talking about how long? 25 years this year.
25 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Man.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. It certainly does. Speaking of having fun, how is your fall deer hunting season going so far?
Really poor. I didn't go out of state at all this year. I decided to stick closer to home. Thought I was going to have a really good season with my lease being planted in corn and my apple trees just loaded with apples. They're not interested in the apples right now because the corn is still up. So I am probably all of gun season, I've seen 3 deer.
Oh.
All of bow season and gun season combined up to now is probably 10, 11 deer total. The best deer I saw was on opening day, 55 yards away, standing in a corn, a big heavy beam 7-pointer, and I couldn't sneak an arrow through there if I tried. And I'm just waiting. I'm getting pictures at night. They're walking through the apple orchard, some nice bucks still, but I need that corn to come down. I'm still waiting for the farmer because he says with the wet fall we've had, the corn is still too moist to harvest.
Man, it's hard to get those deer out of standing corn, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
How about, well, we still got time. You and I both, right? Because I've had a pretty slow season too.
Yeah.
We still got time.
Oh, most definitely. December is going to be a great month. The corn will definitely have to come off here before too long. And with that being off, they don't have that cover. They'll be coming into the orchard to eat and wait until evening to sneak back out in the field to try to get the bits of corn that are left over. And I'll be sitting there waiting.
And you'll be waiting for them. Absolutely. Hey, Joe, how did your summer season go? Because you're also a charter captain. You're working these days with Lialot Charters out of Ludington. How was that season?
We had a good season, good fishing season. Came back every trip, came back with some nice fish. My biggest lake trout this year was 23 pounds. Took on a 400 copper, which the guy really enjoyed reeling in.
You put the guy who's irritating you the most on those rods, don't you?
Yeah. Well, it was actually the grandpa, so he was like the one that did not want to reel it in. But by the time you had it halfway in, he wasn't giving it up.
Good.
Yeah, but we had some good trips out. We had a little bit of a snag in the beginning of the season with the boat, but once we got, we had some crack issues, and they had to re-gel coat it and put it in the water, and we were good to go. And every trip was successful. Everybody was happy when we caught, as we catch fish. And everybody did catch fish. We didn't catch as many 30-pounders out there this year as we've been getting in the last few years. But the numbers of fish were good, and the diversity was good. We got a lot of steelhead, got a lot of coho mixed in with the group. So we had, so it made for a good diverse fishing trips this year.
How does a fiberglass boat crack? Did you guys hit a deadhead at something at one time, or it just happen over time, or what?
Lialot's an old boat. She's 40 years old this year, and it just happens. It's that's why they do dry hull inspections every 5 years. The state requires it. They want to check for all this stuff just to make sure everybody's going to be safe on the water. And this year was they found a few cracks more than what is allowable, and they're not cracks through the hull. They're just gel coats fractures. It could be from heat and sitting out in the wintertime but it's usually not from pounding or nothing like that. It's not something that's going to break through. They just don't want water to seep through those and start saturating the inside.
Okay, so it's just in the gel coat. It's not actually in the fiberglass.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of staying safe on the water, I mean, you've made a career of keeping people safe and yourself safe on the water.
I would like to be on top all the time.
When I hear stories, though, I mean, you're a Michigan guy. You grew up having fun on the Great Lakes. And then, like I say, you made a career out of it. That's been a pretty cool ride, I suspect. Oh,
I had a lot of fun. Not only meeting people, but it just makes for, things pass by fast. I mean, you talk about me being on the Great Lakes. You said I was up in Alaska. I was down the Caribbean, down the off the Baja Peninsula on the West Coast and the Pacific. Been some interesting spots and places that I've been in my career.
Did you ever have any training? I see this river out west where the training is rolling the boats over.
Ilwaco, Washington is Cape Disappointment at the mouth of the Columbia River.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did. I went to that school with the 44-footers. Now they do the 47s. The name of the school, they call it Heavy Weather Coxswain School. But what they should actually, and they've always said it for the last 40 years, to rename it to Wave Avoidance.
Avoidance.
Yeah, they teach you how to avoid those situations, how to possibly get not caught, not looking. Everybody refers to a rogue wave. Well, my instructor said it best. There's no such thing as a rogue wave. If you're out there, you should be expecting one.
How do you maneuver a 44 or a 47 footer quick enough to avoid something like that? Are they pretty reactive or pretty responsive?
Yes, they are. The 44s were slower, top speed of only 12 knots, but you still had, good time. And the transits that you went in, you lateraled into those surf zones for the training and when they taught us. And if you look down from the sky and you colored all the heavy waves that you didn't want to be in, the sloughing and the breaking waves, if you colored those red and being danger, and you colored all the shoulders and the low areas black, like a checkerboard, it would be looking like. All you did is have to maneuver from black checker spot to black checker spot, as you're lateraling in. So you're going across that, you come up on a red one. If you can't shoulder behind it or get around in front of it to get to the other side of it, you just turn your nose into it, ride through those waves, and then continue in, going you're lateraling in or you're lateraling out.
Hang tight, Joe. Got to take a break. We're talking with Joe Marion here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We'll continue this conversation after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC. It's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us, let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to the Sioux, News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by that sound right there, the sound of my Rapid River knife opening. You want to hear it again? Here it is. Oh, I got to clean my knife. I'm just looking at it right now. See? I guess you got to take care of your tools. And my tool right now is a dirty knife because I've been using it for a lot of things. Unfortunately, not cleaning a deer, but I've been using it for a lot of things. But that's what these knives are designed to do. They are pieces of art, handmade in many cases, pieces of art that are designed to be used. Chris Durson of Rapid River says, I don't care how beautiful these things are. Don't put them up on a shelf. Put them in your pocket. Use them, carry them, and that's what I do every day. They're guaranteed for life. You can get them sharpened at any time. I think the best thing to do, if you if you get a chance, go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River, and you'll see what I mean. Last weekend, they had a big, real successful good old-fashioned UP buck pull. There were hundreds of people there. Now, you probably, you still got time to get one for Christmas, before Christmas. I think a knife is one of the best Christmas gifts you can get or give. In fact, I just ordered a couple more for gifts for myself. So again, go to the showroom if you can. If not, go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. You'll see what I mean. You can order there. You can get the knives engraved. If you do go to the showroom, tell them that Mike Avery sent you there. They'd love to hear that. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. Right now, though, we're talking with a friend of mine, Joe Marion. Joe's a retired Coast Guardsman, an avid outdoorsman, avid hunter, also a charter captain. But I like to get Joe on the air this time of year to talk about this whole concept of how to stay safe, either on the ice or around cold weather. Here in Michigan anymore, it's like, are we going to get an ice fishing season or not, at least on the big water? But we know that you're out there waterfowl hunting now. You're out there jigging the Detroit River. You're around cold water right now. So, Joe, it doesn't have to just be thinking about being safe on the ice. It's just the concept of ending up in cold water, right?
Correct. It does. Once the water starts getting below, 60 degrees, hypothermia will take effect rather quickly, and the colder it gets, the faster the onset will be. So just falling in just because there's not ice on the water doesn't mean it's not cold.
And you said anything below 60 is where you start to get concerned?
Well, yeah, you can have some, time frame, but anytime you can have hypothermia when the water's 80 degrees.
Really?
The longer if you're in that water for, let's say your boat sinks out there and no one knows you're out there and you're floating for 2 days, that water is still sapping the heat from you, and bodies have to be at 98.6 degrees. So with that being said, just a drop of a couple of degrees is hypothermia.
Gotcha. And the colder it gets then, when it gets to be near freezing, if you somehow suddenly end up in that's got to be a tremendous shock to your system.
It's one great shock, and the onset is a lot faster the colder the water is.
What does it do to you when you end up in near freezing water? How does your body react to that, and can you mentally prepare for it?
You can mentally work on it. You can work in the cold water. You can splash your face a couple of times with some cold water and know that you don't want to be in there, so it's the safest way to stay out. When we performed training back in the day, we used to actually go put our dry suits on and go jump in the water, and you get your face wet. And, you know, you can simulate that by going to 7-Eleven or Wesco or whichever side of the state you're on has one that Slurpee machines, and get a Slurpee, just drink it real fast. You get a brain freeze. Once that happens, you don't think of anything else but that pain and that issue, and everything else goes out the door, even trying to keep yourself afloat at that point. So it's a tough thing. So biggest thing is if you're going to go in the water, try to keep your head dry. Don't try, so if you're in a boat and you fall over, try to make sure that you kick and push and everything else to keep your head up above water. If you fall through the ice, same thing. Scissor kick as you're going down, put your arms straight out from your body so that they can grab a hold of the edges of the ice and keep you from going under. By keeping your head warmer, it keeps you longer enough to be able to start having an idea of how to get out. But once you're in the water, what happens is that your body needs to conserve the energy for its vital organs, the heart, the lungs, circulatory system, the brain. Your extremities start to shut down. That's why when you start getting, your hands are cold, your fingers are stiff, they're hard to move, they can't feel real well, your dexterity, you lose it. Those things go the first thing. Trying to make sure and preserve that all your vital organs are still staying as warm as possible. They stop circulating their water, their blood through those the cold extremities.
And if you were to go through the ice, the water's that cold, how long would this take? Would it immediately immobilize you, or do you have a few seconds or a minute or so that you can still move, or what's it like?
It depends on your state of mind and the shock that you have when you hit. If you go into shock, you might lose the extra precious minutes that you have. But water, as it freezes, the temperature drops. We all know that water freezes at 32 degrees. Okay, so water itself, as it cools in the fall, when it hits, we all know that warm water floats, cold water sinks. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When it hits 39 degrees, that's what they call when it goes isothermic. That's where the process reverses itself. And then the warm water sinks and the cold water rises after 39 degrees. So the further down, the warmer it is after 39 degrees. So the bottom of the lake is going to be 39 degrees, where the top of the lake is frozen at 32.
Yeah, but I don't want to go down to the bottom just to get warmer.
No, you don't. But your toes might be. But that's what I'm saying is that so right there at the ice level, it's 32 degrees. It's going to start hitting you right away. You've got probably 5, maybe 10 minutes most to save yourself without any assistance.
And how do you do that? If you go through the ice, how do you get yourself, if you're by yourself, and we'll talk about the rest of the scenario in a minute. If you're by yourself, how can you get out?
Be prepared first before you go out there. And the first thing is they make a whole lot of great flotation suits now that you can wear out there, be it Ice Armors, Mustang. A lot of those suits all have flotation built in. So when you fall in, that buoyancy helps keep your head up, keeps you warmer. It also helps you float. It keeps traps air in the inside of it, so you're floating is a lot easier. To get on the ice is a lot easier. But wet ice is hard to grab. It's slick. You drop an ice cube from the refrigerator on the floor of your kitchen. You go pick it up, and it keeps squirting out of your fingers because it's warm. It's getting wet, slippery. That ice, you can't grab a hold of it flat. You're going to need to have the tools with you. You know, they sell ice awls, plastic handles with points that retract. Have caps that retract, so you drive them in and you drive into the ice and you pull yourself up like those pegboards in gym class, and you drag yourself up on the ice, and once you get up on the ice, you roll away from that hole, and you just keep rolling and rolling and rolling until you're far enough away that you can test the ice to get up on your hands and knees and crawl to safety. Don't try to jump up and run because you just might fall right back through again.
I'm just thinking, though, about, the average middle-aged ice fisherman, maybe a little bit overweight, maybe not in the best shape. You got a bunch of clothes on. You get in the water, you're hit with that, plus your clothes get wet then. I mean, does the average person even have enough strength to pull themselves out of the water like that?
As long as you've got tools with you, and if you don't have the ice salts, you can use your car keys, what have you. But you got to remember, you're still float. People still float.
Okay.
So when you're in the water, you're still at neutral buoyancy. It's once you get up on that ice that, I'm 250 pounds, but that's dry. You add some Carhartts that are full of water, and now I'm way, I'm 400 pounds.
Yeah.
That ice is not going to support that, and I'm not going to move that very fast.
So the best thing not to be out there, it sounds cliche, and I'm just trying to, make sure we take advantage of the time we got left here. The best thing is not to be out there by yourself.
Correct. Always go with, especially in the beginning. And don't be the first person.
Oh, those guys drive me crazy. I'm not one of the first people out there. I don't understand that mentality at all.
I don't mind driving down there and looking and seeing who's the first person, but I'm not the first person.
No way.
I'm not the fifth person, too. I'll wait till like 6 or 7 to know that it's safe to go. I really like it when I see quads out there because, now we're good.
Exactly. And all right, so you're out there, two of you. Your buddy goes in.
Yep.
What do you do? How do you get him out?
Again, be prepared to have stuff with you. Have a rope. Have a rope tied to a seat cushion. They make throw ropes with plastic balls on the end that float, that are heavy enough to help throw it out there. Something for him to grab a hold of. And you want something big on the end of that big orange, it's about the size of a softball. The seat cushion, something for them to grab onto because they're wet. Now they're like you said, their hands are going to start getting tough to hold on to things and grab things. So you want something to throw to them from a distance with a rope to pull them out and not be in. And that's where your ice cleats that you're wearing so you don't slip, you can stick those into the ice, hold yourself so you can pull him out because you don't want him to pull you towards him.
Yeah, because if you go to where he went through for a reason. If you walk over there's a good chance you're going to go through too.
2 reasons. That ice is thin. That's why he went through, but he also fractured some ice as he went in. So that ice around him is not going to be safe.
Well, best advice is to do everything you can to keep yourself from getting in that situation. I mean, be thinking ahead, use your head. Accidents happen, but a lot of accidents can be prevented too. I gotta believe.
Yes, they can be prevented, but they also can be prepared for,
mentally and physically.
Yes, exactly.
Joe, always a pleasure. I enjoy your insight. I enjoy your stories, and I'll look forward to hearing many more in the future.
And hopefully if I shoot a buck, I'll send you a picture.
No, it's not if, Joe. It's when. It's positive thinking. You're talking about mental images here. Positive. I can see it in my mind right here. A picture of Joe Marion sitting over a big West Michigan buck. I'm counting on it, buddy.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Joe. Talk to you again soon. Joe Marion, retired Coast Guardsman, now charter captain. Works with Lialot Charters. By the way, you can find Lialot online. Lialot.com, lialotcharters.com. Just do a search for Lialot Charters. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Nick Green is checking in, from Coldwater. He's in the duck blind right now. We'll see what he's up to exactly. And then this week's Ask Avery question will wrap up the hour. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us in Muskegon on the other side of the state, WKBZ, that's 1090 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, on WCHT 600 AM. 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. That's the slogan, but that's the truth. I mean, you can snap on and zip on an outer shell and change the camo pattern. Why spend a bunch of money on different sets of clothes when you can buy one for waterfowl? You can buy one for deer hunting. You can buy one for gun hunting. Just snap on and zip on an outer layer, an outer shell. You can do it in a minute. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com to see what I mean. If you're looking for big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out there as well. And by the way, they're a Michigan company. VersaSkins.com. Talking about waterfowl hunting, Nick Green of MUCC is in the blind right now as we are recording this show. But he is so dedicated to the cause that he said, Mike, you can interrupt our duck hunt and we'll have a conversation. And Nick Green, I do appreciate that. How's the hunt going?
It's going well. We actually had enough ducks this morning that I'm done hunting already. So.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, it was a great morning on the blind.
You know, Nick, I think we've talked about this before, but in my mind, you were a hardcore upland bird hunter, but I feel like you're now a hardcore waterfowler as well.
Yeah, I spend 45, 50 days a year trying to chase ducks, and upland birds were really my kind of game when I was up north, where grouse and woodcock are a little more plentiful, but ducks are more plentiful down here.
Man, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time in the marsh. How is waterfowl hunting in Michigan these days? How are the numbers?
It's been good. You know, Michigan is fortunate that we're blessed with a really diverse amount of species. So you can sea duck hunt, you can puddle duck hunt, you can goose hunt, you can field hunt. You know, a lot of states really don't have that. They maybe have a few different kinds of ducks or a goose and maybe one kind of hunting. So we're fortunate here to have a lot of opportunity to chase them from the beginning of the season to the end.
I know a lot of guys over here around me that are, you know, big water hunters out on Saginaw Bay. They're in the central part of the state. Are you hunting flooded woods, rivers, or what?
Yeah, we're at Shiawassee this morning.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of our managed draw areas. You know, it's a really special place, and there's about 20,000 ducks in the refuge right now, so it's a great place to be hunting.
20,000. You can miss a few and even come home with your limit, maybe.
I do that quite frequently.
Hey, Nick, it was real nice to see you and Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, here last week. And I know one of the topics of discussion was membership. You guys are really interested in boosting the numbers for this year coming up, aren't you?
We are. You know, we're really going to try to make a push and remind kind of outdoors men and outdoors women about why MUCC is special, why the things we do are really unheard of throughout the rest of the United States, the things we work to protect, like habitat. You know, we work a lot on rules and regulations, policy advocacy work, kind of our bread and butter. So we want to kind of remind folks that we're still here, we're still doing good work. We want them to join. We need them to bring people with us, and they can do that at MUCC.org. Click join.
And it's ridiculously cheap. I mean, I used to talk about a promo code you guys had for me. I don't even mention it anymore because the full price of membership at MUCC is just so reasonable.
Yeah, and you're going to get 4 issues of Michigan Outdoors magazine. So that's a 100-page quarterly. It's something I'm the editor of. I'm proud to put out. We're proud of it. It's something we've published since 1947, and it has a lot of news and good stories about hunting, fishing in Michigan. MUCC.org,
MUCC.org. You talked about things going on in Lansing. I got to believe right now, and probably through the end of the year, is pretty slow?
It is. So the legislature is on break. We did just get news that our commercial guiding bill has went to the governor's desk. So we sure to sign that. That will kind of institute some sidebars for guiding here in Michigan. Very big. Hopefully it's something we can build on, but it's something for more than a decade. So we're glad to get that across. We're going to come back next session in the new year, really looking at commercial fishing, trying to get our good commercial fishing bills passed. But right now it'll be slow through the rest of the year.
You're breaking up a little bit, Nick, but I'm getting the gist of what you're saying. Any reason to believe the governor will not sign the commercial guiding bill?
Nope, she will sign the bill. That's what we're expecting. And like I said, our good commercial fishing bills will come back in January, so we'll be pushing those heavy, and we need folks to be contacting their legislators and rule makers about that when that drops.
The good commercial bills we'll talk about more in the future. The bad one, everybody was concerned about 5108 that would have opened up sport fish to commercial anglers with gill nets. Is that dead, or is that still out there?
You know, they don't ever really withdraw bills, so saying it's gone completely is not exactly a fair statement. But we put a lot of pressure on the sponsor, on a lot of the co-sponsors. They heard from sportsmen, sportswomen. I think we can pretty much effectively say it's dead.
So this is a good example. We being hunting and angling public, we can have an impact. We can make a difference. Yeah, I lost it. I'm going to finish that up then. Yes, we can. All right, Nick, listen, if you can still hear me, we've lost you, but always a pleasure. Nick Green of MUCC.org. MUCC.org is the website. But this is a good example. In today's world, it is so easy to feel overwhelmed and insignificant, and like the fact that, you know, you look at what's going on and you have no say in it. And realistically, there's a lot of things we don't, right? But some things we can have a say in. Like when the recreational anglers were mad about this proposed commercial fishing bill, and you reached out to your state legislator, and the thing's not going to pass now. We did have an impact there, right? MUCC is a great way to get things done. The website, mucc.org, mucc.org. I am a member. I don't necessarily agree with everything they do, but I don't agree with, everything that a lot of my friends are involved in. It's fine. mucc.org, mucc.org. Just click on the join button. I think it's like $35 a year. It's ridiculously cheap. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS. That's 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That is securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can ask a question that you would like me to answer directly, or you can ask a question you would like me to pass along to somebody else, like somebody in MUCC or somebody in DNR. Maybe I have access to somebody or can reach somebody more easily than you can, and I'm more than willing to be able to do that if I can. The best way to get those questions to me is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I get people sending me routinely Facebook messages. I got to be honest, I don't like Facebook messages because I don't see them all. And I think I see all my emails, at least the vast majority of them. So send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. This week's question, though, came about kind of from an unusual way. As I was doing the Behind the Mic segment here in the radio studio before recording this week's radio show, I said, hey, are there any questions that you would like to throw out right now that I could use for this week's Ask Avery question? Because I've got a couple of questions that I'm working on, but I haven't received answers yet from the appropriate experts. So those are coming up. So people are throwing out these questions like this. And I said, no. Ask me a question that I know I can answer right off the top of the head, that I have this information right now. Corey Phillips says, okay, Mike, here's one for you. Can you hunt from your house? Which I thought, Corey, is a very interesting question. It's not, and the answer might surprise you. This is not something that the DNR promotes. In fact, there is a safety zone here in Michigan that prohibits the discharge of a weapon within 150 yards or 450 feet of an occupied dwelling or buildings or structures around this occupied dwelling. But you can, in effect, violate the safety zone if you get permission, preferably written permission, from the property owner, the homeowner, the renter, whoever is staying there. So think about this. You can give yourself permission to shoot from your house. If you're in the kitchen and you see a deer walk through the backyard, you could legally open the kitchen window, put a .30-06 out that window, and shoot that deer in the backyard. I would encourage you, if you're going to do that, make sure you get the muzzle, the end of the barrel, outside the window, or you're going to have a problem blowing your ears out. I mean, you could go to an upstairs bedroom and set up. I don't know how ethical this is, so I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying legally you could do this because you can give yourself permission to violate the safety zone. If your house overlooks a cornfield, I can't see a reason why you couldn't go upstairs. If you were wearing blaze orange, okay, you got to have your blaze orange on, and watch the cornfield from your upstairs window. Again, it's not something that they promote. It's not something that anybody's encouraging. But think about a barn. You know, you got a barn overlooking a cornfield, overlooking a wheat field. Yeah, you could set up there if you have permission. But again, if it's your place, you can give yourself permission. Isn't that interesting? I think about, you know, things that seem like they should be blatantly obvious, or things that should be obviously illegal, but they're not necessarily. Other things like, you know, it used to be illegal to hunt from a tree stand with a rifle in Michigan. And then all of a sudden, from one season to the next, everything changed. You could hunt with a rifle from an elevated platform. So one year, if you were to find an old refrigerator out in the woods and you'd stand on that thing to get yourself 2 or 3 feet higher in the air so you could see better into the swamp, you could get a ticket for that. The next year, after they changed the law, you could sit 25 feet in the air on the edge of that swamp from a tree stand with a rifle and be completely legal. Which brings me back to the first hour of the show. Baiting for whitetails is illegal in the Lower Peninsula. But people do it, and the DNR can't control it. The bait ban is in effect because of the concern of the spread of chronic wasting disease. But, for example, where we hunt, I strongly suspect that at least some of the people around us are using bait, and that combined with the fact it's the second week of the firearm season, we're not seeing any deer during the daylight. They're being drawn to other properties. It would be nice to be able to throw a little bait out there. I'm not going to do it because it's illegal, and I can't take the chance of doing something illegal in the woods, hunting or fishing. I'm not going to do it. That's another topic. Listen to hour number 1 if you want to hear more about that. Thanks to our friends at Security Credit Union, securitycu.org, securitycu.org. We're talking trapping in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Glad to have you along with us. Thanksgiving now behind us. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. As we are recording the show, it's just the day before Thanksgiving, but we have plans to have a full house. And it's going to be wonderful. I'm sure it was wonderful. I hope your Thanksgiving was wonderful as well. My deer season, really pretty slow. I have not shot anything yet. Actually haven't had the opportunity here in Michigan to shoot a deer yet that I want to shoot. And for me, that's a big doe. I mean, I would shoot a nice buck if I saw one walk in front of me, but I don't anticipate that happening. So instead, I'd like to shoot a nice doe. I haven't even had the chance yet. The only doe I've had a chance to shoot was just over the fence line on a neighbor's property. I'm not going to do that. But there's still plenty of time. Still plenty of time. You know, hunting this time of year is real big. Fishing in the summertime. I think about the outdoor recreational opportunities here in Michigan. And they're almost limitless. I think we have more to offer folks who love the outdoors here than just about any other state. I mean, you've got places like Alaska that are just crazy, but, you know, Michigan here in the lower 48, this is a really cool place to live. And our outdoor tradition runs very deep. And I'm thinking now about trappers. To me, I have much respect for trappers. Never done it myself. My dad was a trapper. So as a real young kid, I used to marvel at how he'd boil the traps and he'd have the gangs of traps hanging there and he'd come home with these animals that to me were so cool and exotic, and he would flesh them out and skin them out. I've never done it myself, but I have so much respect for trappers. I think that trappers are the most knowledgeable outdoorsmen and women we have in this state. And here's why I say this. If you are, say, Michigan bow hunter, you got to get a deer within about 30 yards or whatever your number is. If you're a deer hunter, a firearm hunter, a gun hunter, you get a deer within 100 yards or so. You have a reasonable expectation of making a harvest. But a trapper, that's a whole different ballgame. A trapper has to set up a situation where the critter has to step in a particular place or walk through or swim through a very specific small area. That takes skill. Joe Velsenky is a trapper. He's also on the board, or is an officer on the board, or somehow involved. I'll ask him about this. The Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association, a group that I have much respect for. And Joe has graciously agreed to give us a few minutes on this weekend's show. Joe, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. So what is your affiliation, Joe? You're what's your title, your position there?
My position with the Michigan Trapper and Predator Callers Association, which we'll shorten to MTPCA.
All right.
My position right now is I'm Zone 3 Vice President. Our state association is Zone 1 is the UP, Zone 2 is Northern Michigan, and Zone 3 is Southern Michigan. Just similar to the gun zone gun regulation. But for the last 9 or 10 years, I was the convention coordinator. We have an annual convention every year up in Everett, and I was in charge of getting that rolling and putting that on every year. And myself and an army of volunteers, we pulled it off every year, and it was wonderful. But I also am the Landowner Assistance Program Director, which I'll give a little spiel on that.
Yeah.
Our association has a program called Landowner Assistance, which if landowners throughout the state have problems with beaver, fox, coyote, raccoons, whatever, they can get a hold of our association. They can call me, email me, and I will try and find a trapper in our association, a licensed, ethical, responsible trapper in their area. So the trapper will come out during fur trapping season, which is right now. Let's say just take for right now, it's beavers are a lot of issues. I'll find a beaver trapper in their area. The trapper will come out, assess the situation. He'll remove the beavers for the landowner. The landowner gets rid of the beaver. The trapper gets the beaver. No charge to either one. Everybody's happy. And the resource goes to use. The fur trapper will use the resource. So, and that's one thing I do. I'm also, like you said, I'm on the board of the MTPCA, but I'm also a trapper education instructor, similar to our hunter safety program. We operate a trapper education program throughout the state. So you're in this trapping lifestyle all the way. Is this something you did as a kid, Joe? Did you learn this from your dad? How did you pick it up? When I was a kid, and probably like thousands of other kids, there was a couple long spring traps hanging in my dad's barn, my dad's shed, and I took those down the railroad tracks where I lived. I grew up in a little town of Odin in northern Michigan, and I took them down along the railroad tracks to a swampy, marshy area. Tried to set up for some muskrat, and I never had any luck. I didn't know anybody. This was in the early 70s when trappers were very secretive, and that was my extent as a kid. When I was in my 20s, I went to a yard sale, found some traps, And I bought them home, tried to boil them, bought my trapping license, went out, tried it again, and didn't have any luck. And I didn't know what I was doing. And not until I was 42 years old, and I somehow happened on a Fur Fish and Game magazine, and the rest is history. I've been doing it for 22 years now, and I love everything about it. I respect everything about it, and we as trappers, we harvest the renewable resource. We don't decimate, we don't deplete a resource. We harvest the surplus animals that nature is going to take out in her own way. So
I appreciate you saying that too, because when I think of trapping, I think of nothing but positive thoughts. I am fully in, even though I don't do it, I am fully into what you're saying, Joe. And it not only breaks my heart, it makes me mad when I look at the negative criticism that trappers get about how it's cruel and inhumane and all this stuff. I think nothing could be further from the truth.
Mike, I'm so glad you mentioned that word cruel. And we do get that a lot, and it's just misinformation. People who have that, they have been misinformed by, I hate to blanket it, but part of our media, and not so much, not people like you, Mike, but it's, on television, they've been educated the wrong way.
Sure.
But when you talk about cruel, when you want to say cruel, it's Mother Nature who's cruel. When we catch an animal, let's say we're targeting fox or coyote. When we catch that animal, yes, we're going to have to dispatch it. We're going to have to kill it. But we do it quickly and humanely. We don't want the animal to suffer. We don't want it to, jump around and be in agony, which they're not. But when Mother Nature takes out, and I said, we harvest the surplus animals. When Mother Nature harvests her surplus animals, she does it a different way. She does it through disease and starvation. So most of us all know what sarcoptic mange is. It's a mange mite that burrows just under the skin of the animals, and fox and coyote get this all the time. But they get it in areas where trapping isn't, where people don't trap enough, and the population starts to explode. Mother Nature controls that. Well, when I say cruel, Mother Nature will kill that animal with mange or rabies or distemper or parvo or whatever, but she does it where it takes months for the animal to die. And those animals with mange will take months of dying. They're losing their hair. They're scratching. They're blind. They'll be they'll die of starvation or exposure, and it doesn't happen quickly and humanely. It takes months. So yes, we do harvest them. We do kill them, but we do it quickly and humanely, not like Mother Nature. So.
And as you say, it's a renewable resource, and the resource goes to use.
Yes. Yep. As a landowner assistance program director, I get these calls. I've been getting calls all of October and all of November with people with beaver problems chewing down their trees. And these are, and I hate to say it, but a lot of these areas are in residential places. Southern Michigan, Southeast Michigan, where, they have neighbors right next door. And no one has allowed them to, allowed trappers to come in there because these folks like watching the beavers swim up and down.
To a point.
The beavers start,
exactly.
Until they start chewing trees down, landing, building lodges underneath their docks, getting, damaging their boats.
Joe, listen, I got to take a break, but I do want to follow up on this because I think this is a very good point. We're talking with Joe Velsenky of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. Their website, mtpca.com, mtpca.com. Lots more to talk about with Joe, including more on this topic of getting, say, nuisance beavers out of the area right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us in the Thumb, in Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots. Killer Food Plots owner Rich Krazan can be your source for property management, habitat improvement, and especially food plots. Now, I realize this time of year you're not putting in food plots, but you're likely hunting over your food plots. And don't forget, Killer Food Plots has a line of scents as well, cover scents and attractants. Rich will be with us, at our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch on December 6th. So you'll get a chance to meet him and talk with him and learn more about the company. If you can't make it to Wednesday night live, check out their website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. By the way, we are taking reservations for that Wednesday night live. There's no cost to get in. We're not buying your dinner, though. You'll have to buy your own dinner. But you do need reservations just so we don't oversell. And we're actually getting pretty close to being booked up. 989-343-0892. 989-343-0892 for those reservations. Right now, we're talking with Joe Velsenky of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association, MTPCA.com. Joe, listen, before the break, you were saying something. I had to interrupt you. I apologize for that. You were talking about beavers in this state these days have really become a big problem. And, man, they can do some damage, can't they?
They can. Beavers are America's largest rodent, and they are, and we have to think of them as a rodent. And I've gotten calls from railroad companies with issues, with beavers flooding the culverts underneath railroad tracks. Now, back in the 80s, over in the Thumb area, there was a train derailed because of beavers. And can you imagine what it costs now? It's $1 million an hour to have a train derailed. So, that little cute beaver that we see floating around, they can do some horrific damage.
And it's interesting, Joe, because before we hit the air, you and I were talking about, where you live and where I grew up, and very, real close to each other. Back then, when I was a kid, we never had any beavers around, and now they're quite common. So yeah, we've got a pretty good population that needs to be kept under control. Yes,
there is no limit on the amount of beavers a trapper can take, but in certain areas will have more beavers than others. Of course, you get into the UP or northern Michigan with, where there's remote areas, they're gonna overpopulate or they'll flourish. But down in our area where I live in central Michigan, there's very steady population of them, and I catch a good amount on different rivers. And I call them gypsies when they're along the river because they'll go from food source to food source. So they may not stay in one area long, whereas if they're living on a lake, they'll stay on that lake for as long as the food source holds out. And their preferred food source is a popple tree or aspen, but they'll eat. They're not picky when it comes to their bellies, and they'll eat tag alders and young maples and young oaks, and they're not picky. And it doesn't matter if it's in the city limits or a nice residential area or out in the wilderness. They can create a lot of damage.
You used some terms earlier. You said, look, we'll bring in a licensed, ethical, responsible trapper. Why did you choose to use those three words? I mean, I agree with you, but I think the fact that you even use those says a lot about what the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association is about.
Well, our association has about 650 members in it. And everybody who's in, I shouldn't say everybody, most everybody who's in our association, the trappers, because we do have a lot of predator callers also. But today we're talking about trapping. But the trappers are the ones who are in our association. They're dedicated. They're dedicated to keeping this activity alive. I hate to call hunting, trapping, fishing, I hate to call it a sport. I know it's an easy label, but this outdoor activity, those people are dedicated to it, so they want it to continue. They want want to see it grow. They want to see people get into the the sport, get into it, and learn how to trap. And so these people are the ones that I want to contact first. Now, there are locations where we just don't have a member in that area or live in, and I will go reach out on our Facebook page and find a trapper in that area. Before I send them out, I call that trapper and I ask him or her a lot of questions. And, through phone conversation, I've done this for a while, and I can get a pretty good read on someone if they seem like they're going to be responsible, ethical, where before I'd refer them to a landowner. So do follow up within a week or two of the trapper going out. I follow up with the landowner and make sure, hey, did this trapper show up? Were you happy? Did the trapper take care of the problem animals for you? And then I also follow up with the trapper too. So
you said something very interesting about you hesitate to call what our passion is, and our passion being hunting and fishing, shooting and trapping.
Yep.
A sport. And I get that.
Yeah.
Because it's much more than that. It is a passion, it's a commitment, it's a way of life, but especially you trappers. I mean, it is a real commitment of time and hard work, because you have to, by law, if I remember right, check these traps on a regular basis. And then even at the end of the day, when you come home from the trap line, the work is just getting started.
Yes. And that's a good point. And anybody who's interested in trapping, by all means, get a hold of me, get a hold of our association, and we'll do everything we can to get you pointed in the right direction. But reading the Hunters or the Trapping Digest, is the first thing they should do. Because you talked about checking traps. Live restraining traps in the Lower Peninsula have to be checked once a day. It doesn't say every 24 hours. It says once a day. But a good, responsible, ethical trapper will check those traps early in the morning. Most of the animals we're after, if they're in a live restraining trap, whether it's a coyote, fox, or raccoon, those animals are almost always nocturnal. So this time of year, it's dark 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day. So when we go to check those traps in the morning, chances are that animal's been in that trap less than 8 or 9 hours. So we want to check them first thing in the morning. And that way there's, no domestic dogs can get to them. We dispatch the animal. Or if it's a small coon and we don't want to harvest that small raccoon, we have the option to let it go. And then the beaver traps or mink and muskrat, water traps, some traps we use are called drowning traps. Those technically don't have to be checked every day. Those are called killer traps. But if you don't check them every day, how can you catch another animal? So most every trapper checks them every day. But again, that's just being responsible and ethical. And if you want to, catch more than one a day, you need to check them more
than once a day. Yeah.
So
can you make any money trapping these days, or is it strictly an exercise in doing something because you love it?
That's a very good question, and and I hate to do this, but here's my answer for that. You'll get out of it what you put into it. I'm retired now, so I have a little bit more extra time. I don't want to call it free time because everybody knows that I'm retired and they want me to help volunteer. So, but you can actually make $1 or $2, but you have to do a lot of work to make that money. And here's why I say that. We were talking about beaver, so let's just pick a beaver for instance. Beaver pelts right now are holding their own. They may a large beaver you may get $20 for it. That's going to be skinned out, flesh stretched and dried. Okay, but there's also beaver caster that is every beaver, male and female, has a caster. It's a scent that they have, and there's scent glands on there. There's two, one on each side of their belly, along with the oil sacs. Then both the caster and the oil sacs have value to that. Okay. The meat is edible. It's if I cooked you up beaver backstraps, you'd think it's the best tasting venison you've ever had. The beaver tail has value to it. The leather can be saved. Traditional bowmen that make their own bows or handcraft their own bows like to use natural materials, and that's a natural leather. They can use that, so that's saleable. The skulls, those can be either boiled and bleached or use the beetles. That's a sellable item. So there's more than just one thing out of it, and we'll use the whole resource up. The same with fox or coyote or raccoon. All those. The harder you work and the more items you use out of that animal, the more diversified you can be.
Speaking of being diversified, and I apologize if this is an unfair question, but do you know, Joe, off the top of your head, what animals here in Michigan are legal targets for trapping?
Well, there's four. And somebody will correct me on this, but I believe there's about 14 different fur bearers in Michigan. Now, the weasel, there's actually 4 different varieties of the weasel, so that kind of offsets the count. But out of all the fur bearers in Michigan, the only ones you're not allowed to trap are wolves, and there was a wolverine, but if there's a wolverines are not. You can't trap wolverines. But everything else, there is a season for. Now, some animals, there are bag limits. So bobcat, we can get 1 down here in southern Michigan. I believe in the UP you can get 2. Otter, there's by zones. There's different bag limits for otters, and each animal has this. Some animals have their limits. Some animals there is no limit. So.
Well, Joe, I got to tell you, I've enjoyed this conversation. I am fascinated by trapping. I have much respect for trappers. But now you're in trouble because I got your phone number, and I'm not going to hesitate to reach out to you again if you don't mind.
No, by all means, whenever you have a question or concerns or comments, please feel free to give me a call.
I will do that, Joe. Joe Velsenky of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association, their website, MTPCA, which stands for Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. MTPCA.com, MTPCA.com. We'll take a break, and we'll kind of work our way towards the end of this week's Outdoor Magazine show. But, of course, we got to talk to Dixie Dave. But that's coming up a couple segments down the road. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM, that's 580 AM. You can hear us on the other side of the state, Tawas, WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW, 2 stations, in fact, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. I'm here with Charlie Rood. And, Charlie, I made a big mistake. You know all this Michigan brand meats we have here in front of us? Because I kind of brought in a whole smorgasbord today. During the break, I couldn't resist, and I picked up one of these Michigan brand smoked beef jerky. And now I'm trying to do a segment, and my mouth is still watering, and I have smoked beef in my teeth. So it's my own darn fault. Charlie said, don't. He said, wait till after the show, and I couldn't do it. You should always listen to Charlie, because Charlie is a professional broadcaster. Appreciate your help this week, Charlie. As always, this segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. What are we thinking about with Reader this time of year? Well, what I'm thinking about is dormant pruning, meaning when your trees and your shrubs and stuff, the leaves are gone now. They're kind of going to sleep for a while. This is the perfect time to trim them and prune them, because if for no other reason, the crews can come in, and they can see the structure of the limbs and the branches better, so they know where to prune. So it's very, very effective. We're going to have them do that again. Holiday containers. Yeah, you can put your own together, and it'll be nice. But it'll be a lot of work, and a lot of expense, why not just call the folks from Reader, tell them what you want, and have them deliver a holiday container to your patio, to your front door, to your porch, and boom, you're good to go. And then, you don't have to worry about it. And if we get winter this year, listen, do you still want to be shoveling snow? Isn't there something else you could be doing with your time? Whether it's residential or commercial, the folks from Reader can take care of your snow removal as well. So they're kind of the full service, the one-stop shop for everything to do with your property and maintenance. The website, readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. So let me check my list here, make sure we talk about everything I wanted to cover before we have to move along. Deer season, of course. It is the second week of, isn't there a song like that, second week of deer camp? It gets a little harder this time of year, doesn't it? Because the deer have been educated. They are nocturnal. The rut is, I don't want to say the rut's over, but the rut is certainly not what it was 2 weeks ago. Deer are being pressured now. It's getting harder. My only hope is in talking with folks over the content of the show this week. They said, be patient, because as we get into the late season, those food plots that you guys put out there will become more and more of a draw. So I still have my, I'm not asking for much. I just want to shoot a big doe during the Michigan firearm season. If not that, the Michigan bow season. Amen. See, that's all I'm asking for. That's not a lot to ask for. So, still hope there. My son James got a beautiful doe opening morning, 120 pounds dressed. That's a big doe. There's a lot of venison there. I've been talking about baiting throughout the show this week. And listen, I'm no biologist. I'm not an expert, but I'm disappointed that Michigan deer hunters cannot use bait to attract deer in the Lower Peninsula. I understand why, because of the threat of CWD, the threat of chronic wasting disease, and I wouldn't want to be responsible for that in any way, but I just don't know. I'm just not convinced, as a layman, I'm not convinced that the threat of spreading CWD is so great that Michigan deer hunters in the Lower Peninsula should not be able to use bait as a tool to attract and harvest deer. I won't do it because it's illegal. I would like to do it. I have no ethical problem with it. And you can bet if it was legal, I would have some bait out there. Because we're having a hard time right now seeing deer without bait. Well, Avery, if you were a better hunter, you wouldn't need bait. Okay. All right, you got me. You got me. I'm not Lee Lukoski. You got me on that one. Feel better? Also, this use of AR-style rifles. I'm hunting with a Brenton 350 Legend. A Brenton is an AR-style rifle. It's an AR platform. I'm a little surprised at some of the negative comments from fellow hunters about the use of ARs to hunt with. It's a semi-automatic rifle. I have the same number of rounds in my magazine. It's not my clip, it's a magazine. Same number of rounds that you do with your semi-auto or your bolt action. We got to all stick together. I might not hunt the way you do. You might not hunt the way that I do. But as long as it's legal, let's all kind of get behind each other on this one. There's a lot of people who like to take our way of life away from us. Speaking of taking our way of life away, well, listen, the folks at Forward Corporation are promoting this tradition. In fact, if you have a picture of a young person, I'm going to say 18 or under, in the outdoors, hunting, fishing, shooting, trapping, just enjoying the outdoors, and you post it online, use the hashtag #ForwardFuelsTradition. Hashtag #ForwardFuelsTradition. And every month, the folks from Forward Corporation will draw a winner from those posts to get a gift card for the Forward Corporation and all their convenience stores. How cool is that? Forward Fuels Tradition. Speaking of tradition, a tradition here on the Outdoor Magazine Show, Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, and he's going to join us after the break on this week's Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Just like I love to hear from wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar at the end of each week's show. And he's here once again. David, welcome back. How are you?
Really good, Mike. And yourself?
I am doing real well. And listen, we haven't talked about this, and maybe it's unfair to hit you with it like this, but I want to invite you. If you and Terry are free the evening of Wednesday, December 6th, we're going to have another Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack up in West Branch. And if you guys would like to come over, I'd love to have you as my guests.
Mike, we've had reservations for a month.
I didn't know that. Well, listen, then you're not my guest. You got to buy your own meal then.
Okay.
Are you really, David? I didn't know that.
We got a party of 8 or 10 coming.
Oh, that's wonderful. I am so glad to hear that. Well, thank you, David. I look forward to seeing you guys there.
Yeah, we wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Oh, perfect. And there's also something else that you've got. Boy, you're just, that made me so happy. You know what else could make me happy? How about some venison à poivre?
You got it. I know everybody, this was Mike's very favorite recipe. When he came to the restaurant, we had this on reserve for him anytime he wanted it. So you need about 8 to 10 ounces of tender venison steak per person, a 12-ounce package of sliced mushrooms, or if you had morels or shiitakes or something that you've harvested yourself, it would make it even better. But sliced, store-bought mushrooms would be good too. A jar of beef gravy, a couple of 3 cloves of garlic, a medium onion diced pretty fine, and you need a couple ounces of bourbon, a couple ounces of heavy cream, and lots of crushed black pepper, flour, and olive oil. Now, if you wanted to, you could take a couple of tablespoons of whole peppercorns and put them in a food processor and, give it a few blaps like that, like just turn it on for a couple of seconds and that'll bust them up. You don't want this fine. You want nice, chunky pieces of this. And so you're going to trim and pound the steak, and then with a meat mallet or a empty bottle of Coca-Cola, you can pound that down a little bit. You want to thin it out, and that's going to break up the fibers, and then it won't draw up, and it's going to lay flat in the pan and on your plate. So after you get them crushed up, you could use a meat mallet, put it in saran wrap or a Ziploc baggie, and use the flat part of a meat mallet, and you can bust them up real good too. Like nice sized pieces. You don't want this real fine. So you're going to push this real hard into the steaks. Make sure it's going to stick on both sides. And so in a very hot frying pan with a small amount of olive oil, sear both sides. Take them out while they're quite rare. What you want to do is that's going to set the pepper, and it's going to hold the pepper onto the meat. And so you're going to very gently take it out of the pan, put it on a plate where it's not going to cool off too fast. And then you can take the onions and the garlic and saute this fast, stir constantly. Might have to add just a little bit more olive oil and stir them until they're transparent. It's only going to take a couple of minutes. Add the mushrooms and saute that up a little bit more. Add the bourbon, beef gravy, and cook that down fast. Now, if you're going to add bourbon, you might want to take it off of the stove and with a barbecue lighter, light it, because it's going to go poof, when that alcohol gets to the flame. So you don't want to do that underneath your hood vent either, because if you got a little bit of grease in that hood vent, it might catch it on fire, and we don't want to promote any fires to anybody. And so when it's nice, thick, and creamy, add the heavy cream and reduce that down just a little bit more if it needs it. And if you reduce it too much and it gets like a little oily to it, what you want to do is put a little bit of water in it, stir it around in a circular motion. It'll come right back to just before it reduced too much. Okay, now you just had the steaks barely warm on both sides. You might have had them in the pan for a minute and a half on each side. And you don't want to cover them up to cook them. You just want to leave them warmed up as much as you possibly can while not cooking it past rare to medium rare. This is a dish that you really want to watch how fast you're cooking it and how long you're going to cook it for. I know we're all drooling, Mike.
We are. I'm telling you, the thought, the image of those cracked peppercorns pushed into that venison, it is. I had never had anything like it. And once I tasted that, Dave, you're right. It immediately became my favorite. I love pepper, and the combination of the venison and the cracked peppercorns is absolutely wonderful.
Isn't it?
Oh, it is. You know what else is wonderful? I had no idea you guys were coming to Wednesday Night Live. That's going to be such a treat. Thank you for that, David. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, we got reservations. We heard about it. We called everybody that used to come to the ones at the restaurant.
Well, I will look forward to seeing you guys there.
Okay, yeah.
All right, David, talk to you. One more time, Dave.
I said, good luck when you get out hunting.
Oh, good luck to you as well, my friend. Wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, and apparently a big part of Wednesday Night Live, too. You know, we used to do the Wednesday Night Lives at the old Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse. Well, this is the next best thing, and Dave's going to join us there. How cool is that? You can join us as well. Call 989-343-0892 for reservations. 989-343-0892. Go to the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Use the email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a good week. I will talk with you next time right here on the radio show known as Outdoor Magazine.